Okay, the structure of the language. There are four main types of verbs in Potawatomi: animate intransitive, inanimate intransitive, transitive inanimate, and transitive animate. Animate intransitive, or AI verbs. These are the basic statement verbs, where someone does something but doesn't directly affect someone else. I eat, you read, I sit, I talk, they count. Once you start talking about what you eat, then it changes. It's either a TI verb or a TA verb. Or if you talk about talking to someone, it's a TA verb. Or counting something, counting it changes. But in its very basic form, it's just an AI verb. So I do something, but not affecting someone else. Inanimate intransitive verbs. These verbs are often considered adjectives in English. They're very descriptive verbs in Potawatomi. There are two main forms: it's something and they are something. It's red or they're red. It's round or they're round. It's hot or they're hot. It's small or they are small. You also have a form where we use maget, which means it is. So it just kind of depends what the speaker wants to do. You can say, for example, gajate, it's hot, or gajatem get, it's hot. The next form is transitive inanimate, or TI verbs. These verbs involve an animate, living actor and an inanimate object, something non-living. Once you mention the object in the sentence, you have to use a TI verb or a TA verb. I eat it, I eat them. I read it, that book. I pick it up or them up. I look at it or I look at them. I color it or I color them. You eat it, you eat them. Basically, when you start off in Potawatomi, you start out by learning AI verbs, or animate intransitive verbs. And then II verbs are pretty easy to master because there's only two main forms to them. The next natural step is to learn TI verbs, or transitive inanimate verbs. But you can get around in Potawatomi just using AI verbs. It just sounds a little more choppy. So for example, I could say, Mizinigan no wawichke, book I read, versus saying Mizinigan no wow don, I read the book, or I read it, the book. So you can still get around just using AI verbs, but eventually, if you want to sound smoother and be more correct or better understood, eventually you're going to transition into transitive inanimate verbs. The final type of verbs are transitive animate verbs. This involves an animate person doing something to another animate person or object which is considered animate. I talk to him. They talk to her. We talk to them. I read it to him. I touch you. You touch me. Also, animate objects. Certain foods are considered animate, and spiritual things as well. I smoke the pipe, because the living thing, because the pipe is considered animate. A pawagan. The thing about transitive animate verbs are there's like 40 or 50 different patterns that you can use. So there's a lot more to memorize. That's why it takes a little longer to master transitive animate verbs. So when we just start out, we'll start off with AI verbs, and then II and TI verbs, and then eventually you'll master TA verbs. But it takes a little bit longer because there's more patterns and more types. But it makes it easier and it makes it smoother when you talk when you use TA verbs. So eventually we'll get to those. We probably won't even deal with TA verbs in this beginner class. We probably won't touch on them till intermediate class. Also to keep in mind, along with these four types of verbs, AI, II, TI, and TA, are that there are different forms that these verbs come in. For example, there's the independent. This is the basic verb structure, often used for statements and asking simple questions. There's the conjunct, which is used if there's more than one verb in a sentence, complex questions, and sometimes in songs and prayers. is imperative or command form. Then there's the prohibitive, which is telling someone they can or cannot do something. Okay, that's it on this section. Eel.